You all have programs. It has the bios of these bands, so I'm not going to waste your time with that.
Good morning, Steve Berg of Rock and Roll High School. How are you?
I'm great, Key. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm so glad you came out to meet us today, Key Films. We are really interested in wanting to know the foundation of Rock and Roll High School and how it got started, and as well as your role, the role that you play in it. I'm a fan of Rock and Roll High School. I know I'm an early fan, but if you would shed some light on us and the watching audience on the foundation of Rock and Roll High School and the role that you play in it.
Well, Keith, thanks for asking. Rock and Roll High School came about because of my son, who became a drummer. When I was his age, I played baseball, and I can't play a lick of a note on any instrument at all. But my son is pretty good. And when he was in school, and we had him in private lessons, he'd play with about 80, 90 kids on stage, and they'd play about 3 times a year, and songs from the 1800s that none of them knew what they were. And my wife and I would go and sit there with all the other parents, and my son was a percussionist, so he was one of 15 kids standing in the back beating on something that wasn't a full drum set. And so we had him in drum lessons at the same time, and I figured, well, this is going to change when he gets to high school. When he got to high school, it didn't change. They didn't have any rock programs. He was a big Green Day fan at the time, AC/DC, and I never saw the kid play in a band. So I finally went to the school and asked them, and what is there for the kids that want to play popular music? And they said, well, nothing. We've got concert band and marching band, but we got nothing. So then I went to his drum instructor, and I asked him. I said, hey, when you put that kid in the band, I've paid you a lot of money, over $3,000 over the years. When do you put him in a band? And his answer was, nobody does that. Being an old baseball guy and coaching for years and being involved in little leagues and all kinds of youth organizations, I said, well, that doesn't make sense. In football, basketball, hockey, gymnastics, swimming, everybody, there's a structure, there's a league, there's a coach, there's games, there's meets, there's performances. Why isn't this just like that? So in a long story short, I thought, okay, I'll start it. So that's how Rock and Roll High School came to be. The elevator speech, it's Little League for Rock and Roll. And so we kind of patterned it after that. I used to be the director of leagues at a Little League for many years in Los Angeles. So I kind of patterned it the same way. So we brought the kids in. We had auditions. The very first time we formed about 8, 9 bands, and then we started playing on stage. And that's where Plugged In had its start.
So, Steve, expand a little bit more on Rock and Roll High School. Tell me a little bit more about it. What were your thoughts, your further thoughts that you were saying?
Well, Key, the one element, or actually there's many elements, but a key, and not to make a pun on your company's name,
Thank you.
but a key to the program is to put the kids on stage and perform. When I started getting involved, and believe me, I spent 2 years planning this program before we launched it, working with musicians, with teachers, with parents, with kids. We tried things out, and what I kept hearing was that, oh no, you can't put kids on stage until they've practiced for 6 months, a year, and any groups that would try to put kids on stage, they'd have a recital. And my thing was, not ready for what? When I was playing baseball, if a kid had never picked up his glove in his life, he comes out, joins a team within 30 days, he's playing second base and having ground balls hit at him. So you learn more by performing, by playing the game, by playing the show, than just sitting in a room and practicing. You can practice till the cows come home, but you're not going to really understand what that instructor is trying to teach you until you get on stage and you've got an audience in front of you. So our major focus is to put the kids on stage and give them that experience as well as in the practice studio. So that's a very important point in what we do. Well, when we started, we were performing every week until my son came to me and said, Dad, you've got to give us an extra week at least to learn new material. So now the bands play an average of 2 shows a month. They don't play on school stages. We started on a school stage But the first time we played off and played at a real venue, that was such magic that I said, that's it. So now we go around to great venues like the Hard Rock Cafe, Alice Cooperstown, Crescent Ballroom here in Phoenix, these fantastic venues. And the kids play there, and when they go to school, I hear this story constantly, the kids' friends, when they tell them I played at Hard Rock Cafe, their friends don't believe them. And so the kids pull out their cell phones, go onto YouTube and go, well, here I am. So that's a huge focus that we have. Put the kids on stage, put them on good stages, fun stages, not just in the courtroom the courtyard of the local shopping center or on the school auditorium or things like that. Our kids, they've performed at Comerica Theater in front of Alice Cooper. So, you know, we're doing something right. Well, Key, the way we got started with Plugged In was the Chandler Center for the Arts came to us here, oh, I don't know, 3-4 months ago. They'd done a show called Plugged In last year on a very kind of intermediate, you know, beginning level, and said we want to really pump it up. We want to provide a resource, a venue for kid bands. And I said, well, you came to the right guy. So we expanded on what we do all the time, which is put on shows all the time. And we've had partnerships with the city of Gilbert, with the city of Scottsdale, in various events, spring training festivals, things like this. And so we said, this is what we're gonna do for Plugged In. We're gonna have 20 bands nominated. We have actually a youth committee we created from the Chandler Center for the Arts, had a youth group called YAC, Youth
Advisory
Youth
Council.
Advisory Council, that's what it is. I always forget that name. And then we threw 6 kids in from Rock and Roll High School, and they nominated 20 bands that would have the opportunity to perform at Plugged In. So we had 2 auditions. I had one at Hard Rock Cafe, one at Cooperstown, high-profile venues, and judges from the music industry, well-respected judges, like Mike Zimmerlich, Randy Spencer, and Chelsea of Fairy Bones, lead singer, a very popular local band. And they rated the kids, and we brought in bands from all across Phoenix, not just Rock and Roll High School. And we wanted to give those other bands, and I give so much respect for all these other bands who are outside of our program who've had to go through the School of Hard Knocks, find their own bandmates, practice in their garage, go out and scratch and claw for those gigs. So, and we do this all the time. We'll bring in these outside bands, give them the opportunity to play with us at venues that they couldn't play at on their own. So we had 2 rounds of auditions. We chose 9 bands. They got paid. They got recorded in studio. They got filmed by a fantastic company called Key Films. They got professional PR kit, photos by all these great companies that donated all of this. Angles PR, Green World Studios, Acorn and Oaks, Key Films. So we had, I hope I haven't forgotten anybody, but all these great community organizations donated all these great perks to these bands. So 9 youth area bands from Phoenix, they're all throughout Phoenix. We had them from Surprise, we had them from Santa Ana Valley, everywhere in between. They performed at Plugged In. We put that thing together in about 3 months with our resources and all our partners, like the great people at Cooperstown, Hard Rock Cafe. They allowed us to come in on short notice, have these auditions, and then we played the Plugged In concert on in August. I think it was August 22nd. Had a fantastic crowd, great time, great showcase for the kids, and we're going to do this, Key. We're going to keep doing this again and again and again at various venues throughout Phoenix. And in fact, we've already set the next Plugged In for September 12th. You got to mark your calendar, September 12th, 2015, and we're going to make it twice as big next year. We're going to start before the school year ends with this year notice, and our intent is to bring bands from all over Phoenix, all the schools. Ideally, I'd love to have a band representing each high school competing in this competition. So that's kind of our goal. We want to have fun. I tell everybody in my organization, if you have an idea, if it's fun, let me know, and if God willing, we'll do it.
Steve, you are excellent. Thank you so much for your time. I'm a Rock and Roll High School fan. I'm a Steve Berg fan. I'm a Jared and Hermarsha fan. know. But I thank you so much for your time and everything that you're doing for the youth here in the community in the Phoenix Metroplex. And I hope that happens. I really hope that you get a representative, a band representative from each high school. That is quite awesome. So thank you so much, Steve. Did you have a shout out, a last minute shout out you want to give to anybody, or do you want to say anything to any bands or your Rock and Roll High School? Anything you want to say?
I just want to tell my Rock and Roll High School kids, keep rocking, keep having fun. Key Films, great organization, great company. Thank you for working with us and being part of Plugged In.